Good evening. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present and that the meeting has been duly called and that the notice of this meeting had been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. We will now move into closed session. I call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. We will now begin our opening ceremonies. Would Mrs. Cassandra Phillips please lead our invocation?
Thank you, Madam President. Please stand. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to see another day. For those that didn't make it, we ask for comfort and peace for their loved ones. We humbly stand before you and ask you to protect the children everywhere, Texas and beyond. Heal the sick and mend the broken hearts. Lord, please guide and protect Duncanville ISD families across the state, nation, and the world. Lord, we thank you for the commitment from everyone in attendance to support our students and our school district. We thank you for the many blessings received daily, one of them being the opportunity to serve the students in our district. For these and many other things, we say thank you. In closing, Lord, we ask that everyone affected by the storms and tornadoes last night receive all the support, love, and encouragement needed. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. I think we have some guests from Acton Elementary to lead our pledges. I like your shirts. Those are real cute.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. My name is Kyla Bowens, principal at Acton Elementary School. Tonight, we have with us Team Acton, Assistant Principal Derica Turner, and joining us are our phenomenal students, Aaron Jackson, Jaden Miller, Serenity Patterson, Mariah Patterson, Zipporah Richardson, Bobby Amos, Camila Ramiro, Alexis Lassiter, Landy Guillen, and Yuretsi Cantu.
Thank you. We'd love to shake all of your hands. You are loud and proud. Excellent job. Great job. Thank you so much. Good job. We will now move into the superintendent's report, and I turn it over to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow board members. My honor tonight to share with you a few items under the superintendent's report. The first item is to update you on the Panther Parent Expo. Our inaugural Panther Parent Expo took place on this past weekend. And so it was a great day, a great opportunity to be able to share with our parents who were in attendance lots of neat things going on in the district. We had a total of 14 sessions that were offered. We had sessions, for example, on child nutrition, dyslexia, dispelling the myths. That was a real popular one. Special education. We had a session on Dallas County Promise. We had a session on family and community engagement, which that one was a popular one as well. And then we had a session on social media tips for parents. We need that so we can check up on our kids, see what they're doing. But that was a popular one as well. And so it was a great opportunity just to raise the awareness for families about the programs that are available in the district. We did get some very positive feedback from parents through social media. One in particular there that's highlighted in on the slide, where a parent was just expressing their gratitude for the special education program and was sharing some concerns about their child who will be starting school soon, and was just really encouraged to know all that we have to offer and learned a lot and helped ease a lot of her feelings that she had about her son when it's his time to start school. So that was a great opportunity. We will continue each year to expand, to get bigger and bigger, and our desire, of course, is to be able to communicate a much longer time frame so that we can hopefully increase the number of parents that are attending. I think we had about 33, a little over 30 or so parents, and so we certainly have a goal to do more next year. The FAFSA session was also a really good session. So those in attendance there learned a lot about just the documentation information that they need for their students as it relates to getting prepared for college. It's a lot of information, and so to have that broken down for parents is really a good thing to help them support their students. And so we're really excited about that and looking forward to growing that program in the years to come. The next report that I have for you is the new clear bag policy for athletic facilities. We all know at facilities really all across the state in high schools, but also other events that we all attend, whether it be a professional sporting event or a concert or something like that, just for safety purposes, trying to put some practices in place so that those that are in attendance can feel safe and enjoy the event there. So the new clear bag policy primarily affects 5 facilities, athletic facilities in the district. It impacts Panther Stadium, impacts Old Panther Stadium, the baseball complex, which includes softball, the natatorium, and then Sandra Meadows Arena. So those are the 5 facilities right now that we're looking at. And so the purpose is safety for our visitors to the athletic venues, as well as just a quick, efficient way to enter into the building. So that enforcement begins on Friday. It's our next home football game. And then Saturday, November 2nd, is a multi-team scrimmage for the Panther Reds at the Sandra Meadows Arena, so it'll be the first time it'll be implemented there. We've been doing a social media campaign to share with our community. We've also placed the information on the digital marquees you see there at the high school. You may have seen those as you've driven by. Game day signage outside the facility and cards and flyers are being handed out. In our weekly staff news and our informer newsletters, you may have seen those. We've advertised our new policy there. And then email messages home to parents will happen this week, as well as internal email for employees. So we know we have to communicate ahead of time, and we're working hard to put a good communication plan in place. We've been really studying this for a pretty good period of time and have been needing to move in this direction. So I think we're ready to move in this direction at this time. So I'll be continuing to give you feedback that I get on how things are going, and I know you'll give me feedback as well when you get it on the new policy. So looking forward to implementing that. The next thing I wanted to update you on is the curriculum management audit process. You may recall, I guess a board meeting or two ago, we talked about the curriculum audit. And so the audit took place for about 2 weeks. It concluded about a week ago. And just as a reminder, they spent about 4 days in our district conducting observations and reviews. And this is a deficit audit because we want to continuously get better. So we want to know where we're weak. We feel pretty good about those areas that we're strong, and we'll continue to get strong in those areas. But in order to continuously improve, you got to evaluate where you're weak. And so we are doing that with the curriculum audit process. Most of the campus and district leadership played a role in that process. We should be receiving the findings sometime before the winter break. And so I'll be updating you with that information. I did get a lot of positive feedback about our principals and our staff from the auditors. They were very complimentary of how open and receptive our staff was. And so we're just looking forward to finding that information and then beginning to prioritize a plan of action of what we can do to get better. The next item that I have for you, I wanted to update you on, is professional counsel. We had our first meeting. The professional counsel consists of teachers throughout the district. So it's their opportunity for us to have two-way conversation, just me and teachers. And so I get to hear from them how we're doing or how we're not doing. And then we get to talk about that and then put a plan in place and communicate back out to them. And so we had that first meeting a few weeks ago. And so I was able to hear directly from teachers regarding successes and challenges. The main areas really that they were interested in is the implementation of House Bill 3 and how that impacted teacher salaries and how we set up our formula. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. And then I followed that up with a FAQ document that has gone out responding specifically to the questions that the teachers were asking. So we'll continue to follow up on that, and I always enjoy getting that feedback from them. Had one other, maybe a couple other items real quickly. We had our first PACE graduation. I think I saw Ms. Hudson earlier. There she is. So we had our first PACE graduation. If you've never been, it is a great opportunity. Ms. Hudson does a wonderful job of celebrating the students' hard work, dedication, and commitment. We have 15 students graduate from PACE on October 10th. This was, again, the first graduation ceremony of the year, and just want to highlight Ms. Hudson for all the great work that she's doing there and giving these students a second chance to be successful. And then lastly, our parent-teacher conferences. Those are good opportunities. So we'll have our first one this year, October 10th, October 22nd, and October 24th, rather. You see the breakdown there. And so it's an opportunity, again, for our parents to come to the campuses and just see, build relationships, get some insight on how their students are doing. We just completed the first 9 weeks. And so now there's a lot of good information to be able to share with parents on the status of their students. So we have those coming up October 22nd and October 24th. So that concludes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We now move into our recognitions program. Ms. Tiara Richard.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. So first up, we have our Made with Pride in Duncanville Honorees, where we celebrate a teacher, student, and a staff member who are made with pride in Duncanville. And again, these are honorees selected throughout the entire district. We've opened up actually the nomination process. We used to only accept them from internal employees or people who work in the district, but we've opened it up to the community. So we've seen an increase of nominations that have come in and multiple nominations for some individuals. And again, these nominations carry over month to month. So we have all of these great nominations that come in, but if a person may not be chosen this month, they still continue to have an opportunity to be selected throughout the rest of the year. So I wanted to share a little bit of that background on that nomination process and how it's changed just a little bit. And then I just want to start off by honoring our first honoree, who is Made with Pride in Duncanville. Our Staff Member of the Month, Ms. Latasha Edwards from the Transportation Department. All right, so Ms. Edwards here is a very, very special employee here in the district. The Transportation Department really does depend on this lady quite a bit. She is the route coordinator for transportation. So what that means is that when it's time to sort of scheduling and keeping up with where our buses are going, when something happens, like a bus breaks down or there's some sort of issue, she knows where they are. She knows where the closest backup is. She knows that if a student misses a bus, where's the next one in the area? She keeps things moving and is just aware of every moving part about where our buses are, who's driving them, what kids are on them. She's that knowledgeable person that everyone goes to every time there's a need. So can you imagine that person you go to anytime you need something? This is the person in transportation for that. And so she has the answers. Not only that, but she does it with a smile, and she's supportive, and she gives of herself so much. She's been with the district for 7 years now. She started as a driver, and through her hard work and dedication, she has just continued to be an asset for our children and our community. She absolutely embodies the pack. So Dr. Smith talks about professionalism, accountability, communication. She does those things. For example, she had multiple nominations, but on one of those nominations, Dr. Crystal Rentz summed it up perfectly when she submitted her nomination form. She said, I want to give a huge shout out to Latasha Edwards. She has and continues to be so helpful in coordinating routes. She is responsive, professional, and just plain thebomb.com. So it is with great honor that we recognize Ms. Latasha Edwards as our Made with Pride in Duncanville Staff Member of the Month. Thank you, ma'am. Up next, we have our Student of the Month, Mr. Preston Lee. All right, so Mr. Preston Lee is a 7th grade student at the STEAM Academy at Kennemer Middle School. He was chosen as the district Student of the Month and also had multiple nominations. He is described as an absolutely exceptional student. In fact, he's earned the nickname Mr. Everything because he is just involved in so much. He has his hand in a little bit of everything. And not only is he involved, but he's a leader in every aspect of what he participates in. He's the Skills USA president, a leader on the Student Council, a leader with Youth in Government. He is also on the football team. In band, symphonic choir, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I got band. I gotta make sure we include band, all right? And you'll actually, in the video, you'll get to see him play a little bit when we play the video in just a second. But no matter what Preston does, he just strives to be a leader. He steps out in front and people follow. People recognize strong leadership and they turn to him. And he gives them the sort of leadership that people need, that our students need to see. And so we're just extremely proud of you for all of your hard work, your dedication. You are an outstanding young man, and we're proud of you and really thankful to recognize you as Made with Pride in Duncanville Student of the Month. Congratulations, Preston. Last but not least, our Made with Pride in Duncanville Teacher of the Month is Ms. Jue Daniels. All right, I didn't mention that Preston cried in the classroom when we came in. He was just so shocked. But then we turned around and we recognized his teacher, Ms. Daniels, in the same recognition moment, and she cried. So there was lots of tears of joy and surprise, but it was a beautiful moment. We were very, very proud of you. So Miss Daniels is a teacher in the STEAM Academy at Kennemer Middle School. She is described as just an absolute asset to the campus as a whole. She comes in early to assist students and stays late. She offers tutoring sessions, but not only does she work outside of the regular school hours to make sure she's supporting students, she's even added a doorbell. You know those little ring doorbells that you can add outside of buildings? So that students who are coming to school early and they just, before the doors open, she will open the doors, let them come into her classroom and study and tutor them. So she's installed her own doorbell at Kennemer so that students can get in and get the instruction they need. And in the evenings, you know, she has her own family she goes home to, and they're here. But she sets aside time to tutor students from home through Skyping or online streaming, Zoom. Zoom is the app she uses to actually do that. So she'll let students sign up for sessions to continue that tutoring process online so that students will be able to be on there collectively and ask questions and get feedback. And these are for kids who maybe can't come in early or can't stay late for whatever reason. She's making sure she's still a resource to them. And she doesn't just stick in her own subject area of ELAR, correct? She also tutors in any other area that other people have questions in or the students have questions in. She will help with math, algebra, whatever your need, she will be there to support you. She is one of those people that everyone can turn to if they need to. Not only that, she also offers additional support for campus staff. She also assists with Springboard curriculum, so helping and supporting there. She's just one of those instructional leaders who is a leader for her kids, for others on campus, and just providing whatever support she can in whatever way she can. And it's just amazing seeing the rapport and the way that kids respond and react to her in those moments. So we are so very proud, and I know her family and the Kennemer family is also very proud to recognize Miss Jue Daniels as our Made with Pride in Duncanville Teacher of the Month. And so as our honorees step over to take a picture with our board president, we have a video to give you a little bit more insight into each of these individuals and why they were selected.
Duncanville ISD congratulates the following student, staff member, and teacher who are made with pride in Duncanville.
I'm currently a route coordinator. I monitor buses with GPS system. If I have to dispatch, I do that as well. Just really fit in where it's needed most. And a lot of people think that it is just transporting kids here and there, but it's more to it. You have to worry about the safety inside the buses as well as outside the buses. You got to make sure kids are crossing safely, getting off and going where they need to go. And anyone dealing in transportation when it comes to children has a great responsibility.
Yeah, so last year I created the doorbell so that students can get into the building before the building opened in order to get the homework help and the tutoring that they needed. So my rule for them was if I'm here, you have somebody to help you, whether it is a social emotional need, whether it is the curriculum, whether it is just some strategies that they need. You know, I'm passionate about my students. I go above and beyond and try to do what I need to make sure that students are successful.
So I am the student body president, I'm student council president, I'm skills USA president, I'm a very active member of youth and government, and I am in symphonic horn band. I just want people younger than me, I want them to be able to see they can pretty much do what I do and be active and still enjoy school as well. The best advice that I can give someone is to keep on. The impact and the outcome will be greater than you ever imagined when you first began.
These honorees truly are made with pride in Duncanville.
And we always talk about that it takes a village. It's not that one individual. So I'd like to ask the family members for each of our honorees, including their school families, to please stand so we can recognize you too. Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is actually a recognition for Coach Nuno Passos. Coach Passos? So Coach Passos, I mean, if you've ever met him, the man has energy for days, right? How else can he keep up with all those soccer boys, right? So Coach Passos is here because he recently was recognized for having his 200th win. So congratulations. When you talk about a 200th win, that's longevity. In the work and really having the opportunity to succeed over a long period of time, over an extended period of time. Coach Passos has been coaching for 20 plus years. He's starting his 11th year here in Duncanville. And every year he and his team are in the top. They're being discussed as some of the top in the state. Last year, it was a heartbreaking one, but it was a great year in the sense that they were so close to advancing against a really tough team, a Flower Mountain team. There were 7 seconds left in the game, and they had tied it up, but the other team scored and took it over. And so that Flower Mountain team ended up going on to state and winning state. And so it's been that way over the last few years. Probably 3 of the last 6 years, they've been knocked out by the team that went on to win state. So it gives you an idea of the level that they're playing at, that they're able to compete with teams from all over the state at a high level and just consistently. And I think that's the one thing that he talks about, that model of consistency, being able to play at that level consistently for extended period of times with boys who are strong, but just have really great hearts. They want to win. They want to play for their coach. They want to do well. And that speaks to the ability of this coaching staff and how they do this. Over his 200 wins, more than 200 wins, I asked if there was one win that was really, really special to him. They all are. But there was one in particular 5 years ago here at Duncanville. He coached his 100th win, so when he first got his century mark. And that 100th win, he coached his son, Damien, on that team. And so that was just a special moment in time. And so that's one that stands out to him, and he'll remember it always. But really, Coach has talked about it being a blessing to be able to coach and support these kids the way he does and have the coaching staff that he does. And we are honored to celebrate you and your 200th win, more than 200th as the season continues, and looking forward to seeing what you continue to do with our athletes. All right, thank you, Coach. And just like our other honorees, Coach Passos doesn't do this by himself. He also has his wife here with him, and also the athletic department that have always been supportive. So I'd like to ask Coach Passos if you have any family here, if they could stand, and also your athletic family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. We do not have any communications from citizens to discuss pending agenda items before the board, and we do not have any closed session items. Therefore, we'll go right into our consent agenda. Yes, Ms. Savage, Janice Savage Martin.
I'd like to make a motion that we move items A, B, and 8B and 8F to the consent agenda items.
Was that 7B, C, and F?
A, B, and F.
I think we're going to do A. So 7B, C, and F?
B, C, and F.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. And we will amend that part of the agenda by moving 7B, C, and F. Are there any questions, comments? Oh, was that 8? Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to move them to 8B. Y'all are messing me all
So now-
up. We're moving them to 8. We're moving them to 8.
From A.
No,
From
we're
8,
moving
from
them
8,
from
not
8
7. I'm so
to
sorry,
7.
thank you. I like that sign language. I like that. Okay, reminds me of baseball days, you know. Okay, all those in favor of moving items 8, B, C, and F, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended? Ms. McNeely?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you.
Second?
Ms. Colton had her hand up.
I wouldn't put my hand up, I'm sorry.
Ms. McNeely has moved and Mrs. Colton has seconded the consent agenda as approved, as amended, to be approved as amended. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your left hand, right hand, doesn't matter. We're just glad to have Janet back. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. If any of you did not know, Janet Veracruz has had some struggles the past few weeks, and we're just blessed and praise the Lord that she's back with us. And just hope for many, many more good returns, making good progress. All right, we now move on to the action agenda, and the first item is the purchase of Chromebooks and carts for elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school campuses. The presenter is Kathy Sewell.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Smith and Board of Trustees. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present approval for your consideration and approval of Chromebooks and Chromebook carts for our elementary, intermediate, middle, and Duncanville High School. What you see before you is a request to purchase 1 Chromebook cart and 36 Chromebooks. That's a configuration for each elementary school and each intermediate school. So that would be 12 carts and then the corresponding 36 Chromebooks. Then for our middle schools, we're requesting 2 Chromebook carts with 36 Chromebooks each, which would be 72. Those would be 2 configurations for each middle school. And then we're asking for 3 carts and the corresponding Chromebooks for Duncanville High School. The reason why we're bringing this up for your consideration and approval is because we are developing systems for iStation and for differentiating instruction and progress monitoring in a very active way at our schools, as well as the implementation of Achieve 3000, which is a literacy lexile development program for students not only in their English language arts classes, but also we're implementing in social studies. And so the carts would then allow for mobility and increased access, as well as upgraded access for some of our Chromebooks that are older. We need to have some more upgraded units for kids to use. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. The carts will be delivered. We're looking at an estimated 35 days pending your approval. Ms. Cowan, the Chief Technology Officer, and I have confirmed about that estimated time frame. And we're also having the company work through programming those and having them ready for the schools so they'll be ready to go upon delivery to the district. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Sewell.
Yes,
Do I
ma'am.
have a motion in regards to purchase of Chromebooks and carts for elementary, intermediate, middle school, and high school campuses?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Janice Savage Martin. And Ms. McNeely has seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Janice?
Oh, sorry. I'm on to the next one.
Okay. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sewell. Now we go to the design development for the Teaching and Learning Center. Presenter, Ms. Andrea Fields.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Smith, and board members and waiting audience. Again, it's my pleasure to stand before you to present the design development presentation. As you recall, Board, we hired Huckabee Architects, prepare our construction documents for the Teaching and Learning Center, which of course is the former Acton Elementary School, and you approved the schematic designs in July, and so we've had a few months in between, and now tonight, Mr. Andre Brackens and Mr. Luke Powell are going to walk us through the design development presentation, and we're going to ask you to approve that for us.
Well, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Smith, thank you once again for this opportunity to present the design development presentation for the Teaching and Learning Center here in Duncanville ISD. The first several pages you will see contain narrative that give detailed descriptions about each area. We won't necessarily have to go through that in an exhaustive fashion. I would encourage you to actually go to page 3, if you will, which shows the site plan of Old Acton Elementary School, and I'd like to walk you through that, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Luke Powell, who will take you through some of the interior items, and then we'll close with the estimates and the schedule in terms of the presentation. So starting out, what you saw last, as Ms. Fields indicated, was you approved the schematic design portion going through the design process. What's happened between then and now is what we call design development. And in design development, it gave us the opportunity to have what we call a pre-development meeting with the municipality, which is the authority having, the jurisdiction having authority over this project, which is the City of Dallas. So we were able to have a pre-development meeting with the City of Dallas, understand their requirements as well, have them look at the project and give their opinion as well. And so what I'd like to do initially is just walk you through the site plan. If you'll reference it there, you'll notice the yellow color indicates the existing building, which is approximately 40,000 square feet. There's an existing gym, which is approximately 8,000 square feet as well. You see the light gray area indicates the existing parking and drive along County View Road and also Fieldview Lane. And then the darker gray represents the additional parking that's proposed in a later phase, or if you choose to combine phases, these could be done at once. I would also draw your attention to the red, draw your attention to circles, which represent the main entry for the TLC, and then the orange circle represents the administrative wing, or the administrative entry, if you will. So basically you have existing 77 parking spaces. New parking spaces proposed are 128 for a total of 205. And in our pre-development meeting with the City of Dallas, there were some requirements that we didn't anticipate, but they are going to require for this development. And we did take into account the timeline and the protocol that's required for that. And their protocol for this building, they determined that since it's changing from an educational use to an office or administrative use, it would need to go through City Planning Commission and also City Council. And so that is a protocol that that adds a little bit of time to it. We didn't necessarily agree with that. We thought it could be an educational use, but the head building official made the decision and said it is a change of use. And so because of that, there are some cost impacts which were accounted for, and also some time impacts as well. So we are in that process and continuing that process now with the City of Dallas in reviewing the project and incorporating those changes. And so what you'll see tonight incorporates and takes under consideration the items that were brought about because of the pre-development meeting with the City of Dallas. Okay? And if there aren't any questions on the site plan, I'm going to defer to my colleague Luke, who will walk you through several of the interior diagrams and interior perspectives to give you some idea of what's being proposed. So I'll turn it over to Luke now.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. Thank you for having us. Before we move off the site plan, were there any particular questions on the site plan? Sorry, one too far. All right, the first slide we're looking at is the floor plan of what we're proposing to be in phase one, which is about 15,000 square feet, incorporating some of the teaching and learning center as well as the administration area. The only change that has been made to this floor plan since the last we saw a schematic design is that we've had discussions around the reception and the function of the space, and that the main entry will really be the main entry for all uses of this building, for administration, for the teaching and learning settings. So it is, we wanted to create a controlled entry. So we did add additional walls that will keep visitors from moving throughout the space at any time, more like this building here. Next slide, this is incorporating phase two. Again, there really are no additional changes to the floor plan. The area that you see in the yellow between the two slides is the teaching and learning center and the support spaces. The peachish color, for lack of better color there, is really the administration area and those support spaces. And then the green is cafe, dining areas. This image, a part of the building refresh, is for a new entry canopy. And we're going to remove a canopy that you would see that's existing over on the left side of the image, and then add a main canopy that will extend out to the new phase two parking area. As you see the seating area, the idea in the seating area was to create more of an informal gathering space as you come in and move in and out. We'll discuss the seating and whether or not we want tables and chairs or we just want some hard landscape seating. But this is creating that refresh to that entry. This image here is the controlled entry and reception. So this is coming in as you come in the main entry doors and you look back towards the reception area. And then the double door that you see on the right leads back to the administration area as well as the small and medium training rooms. If you go towards the corridor down on the left side of the image, will take you down towards the large conference room as well as the cafe. This is as you pass right through those double doors. What you're seeing is a medium training center there on more in the middle of the space. And then the corridor back to the administration area, and then a huddle room over on the left. This image is the central break room. This break room is depressed into the slab about 12 inches, so there's a couple steps down into the space, creating higher ceilings. And then the corridor down towards the left will take you down towards back to the reception area, just to get orientation. And then you have a small training space which has the wood ceiling that carries through the training rooms. This is the large training room. As you enter the building, as you enter the main entry, it'll be on your left. There is an operable partition, as you can see over on the right. That would be a markable writable surface that would open up to create a larger gathering space into the cafe. And this image is of the administration area. So you're looking down the main corridor, which will have communal seating, workstations, and huddle rooms. This last image is looking at a medium training space on your right, and then the collaboration spaces as you break out into these from small conference rooms, medium conference rooms over on your left. This slide is the space program over on the left. Not much has changed to this except for, as we really massage some of these spaces, the square footages have changed a little bit. One big change, not big, but is the quantity for the content coordinator has increased since the original program from 8 to 9. So we have included that, yet we still have, in the plan, we've got 2 future growth offices that you see in the second column, all the way towards the bottom there, above the building totals. So we had 2 future growth offices and then 6 future growth workstations. Over on the right is our updated opinion of probable cost. This is a little bit more detailed from what we've seen in schematic phase. A couple of items to note that have changed. In the site, we originally had the parking split into phase 1 and phase 2. In order to build out more of the floor plan of the building, we're proposing to move all of the parking into phase 2. The amount of square footage that we're building out of the building, the existing parking supports that function. So we're able to still build out the 15,000 square foot with the amount of existing parking that we have. So under phase 1, we've got the $100,000 for ADA accessibility, any repair, restriping of that existing parking, and then landscaping that will be required during phase 1. Over in phase 2, where you see the $700,000 number, then that is the new parking area, accessibility, site lighting, and all new landscaping. Under the exterior renovation, we're carrying all of this in phase 1, which just would be any remediations that need to be done to the building exterior as far as repair. We are having a building consultant come in. There's been discussion about water penetration through the building, so they will do a report for us to let us know what is exactly going on and how to remediate that, which is part of that $300,000 line item. And then we've got $165,000 for the entry canopy and any refresh, to really bring that entry up. The interior renovation is, it's really, not much has changed. It's really split between, the 40,000 square foot is 15,000 in phase 1, and then the remaining 25,000 in phase 2. We are proposing that demolition all be carried in phase 1. We don't want to have people in here working and then trying to demo the phase 2 areas. We're going to do that all at once. The other item, which really is not a line item in here, but we will be replacing all of the glazing throughout the building. All of that will be, all the exterior glazing, that'll all be in phase 1 as well. Let me see. So where that puts us, construction total with owner's contingency, phase 1 owner's contingency, we have at $200,000. Phase 2, we have at $250,000. So the estimated phase 1 total of $3.97 million is coming in just under what we had at the schematic design at $4 million. And phase 2, what we see here is the $4.91 million is coming just under what we had in the schematic design at $4.95 million. Total at schematic design, we had at $8.95 million. We're standing right at about $8.9 million currently. The next line items that you see, alternates. For phase 1, we're showing $170,000 in alternates. And for phase 1, this really does not go back into what the city of Dallas is going to make us do. What we have in the alternates is we may have to replace some rooftop gas piping when we get in to replace RTUs. We're not planning on it, but if that's the case, we have $45,000 in alternates there. And the other item that's in there is when we do replace the exterior glazing, we still have to get somebody to inspect the frames to make sure that they will accept a 1-inch thick insulated glazing. So we've got another $125,000 in if we do need to replace all of the exterior aluminum frames. The phase 2 alternates that we see of $340,000. One of those line items is we are still in discussion with the city of Dallas on whether or not they're going to make us put in a detention pond. Our calculations say that we don't need to, but they're wanting to hold us to a stringent, more strict calculation on that.
Detention, what was that?
A more strict calculation
No, you
on
said detention
detention pond.
pond?
Yeah, basically, it's an area, it's almost a ditch in the ground that would, when it rains, it will fill up with water until it gives it a chance to run off. It just slows down the runoff of the drainage from the additional impervious surface that we're adding.
For runoff purposes.
Yes.
Yeah, stormwater.
Yeah, for stormwater, yes.
It's a federal and state requirement.
Right. Yeah, and currently,
State requirement.
there's the park to the north side, and that site drains off into that park, which then there is a stream, a creek back there, and that's where it's draining into. And so that's the discussions that we're having. So in the alternate, we have $150,000 if we do need to add a detention pond as part of the project. Another one, which Mr. Brackens had brought up, was landscaping. Currently, the city of Dallas has a new Article 10 ordinance for landscaping. They're telling us they're going to make us abide by that, which is a point system that right now, our calculator showed it's going to be about an additional 35 plus trees that would need to be added. So we're carrying an additional 40,000 allowance or alternate for that. And the last item in that is if we do want to add a digital marquee, we have a $150,000 alternate for that. Schedule. Did you want me to go back to the last slide?
No, I just wanted to know what the tree amount was.
Did you get it? 40,000? 40, yes. Yeah, and that still may be on the high side. The calculations gets into the lot air, I lost the word, the artificial lot. And if we have to add a detention pond, that's considered artificial lots. So that'll increase the number of trees we have to do. If we don't have to do it, that'll be less. So, it's, we're borderline of where that would actually fall. But a part of the planning and zoning and going back for for a PD for the new function or for the new use of the building, we can request to do less than what they're asking. We can request not to do the Article 10, which will be what we go in at. We just need to see if they're would allow that.
One of the things, thank you, Luke, one of the things that I really wanted to summarize is that since the pre-development meeting and then understanding the requirements that the city of Dallas, bottom line is that they will require it, but going through the planning and zoning and the planning commission process, it will help us in some capacity mitigate some of those uses. And so we do have, again, some expediters who work with the city of Dallas, and we have made some recommendations to leadership in terms of utilizing them. I've utilized them on other projects, and it's helped mitigate some of the costs. So we really want to be advocates of being obviously in full compliance, but also mitigating any options that really drive the cost. In our opinion, this still should have been an educational use from that standpoint, but the decision was made, so we're going to comply with it. It does add additional dollars. It does add time, but as you see on the schedule, it typically would take about 6 to 7 months to go through this process, but you see that accommodated for when you look at jurisdictional review. We're saying that we should be able to be completed from that. Now, I'm not sure if this is the updated one. It's not the updated one, but the one that you have, the hard copy that you have, I believe shows us completing the jurisdictional review in either June or July of next year. Is it June? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it has us completing that process in June, which you have in board books. So again, it's a lengthy process. It's a protocol that they will require as presented in the pre-development meeting. And there are some cost impacts, but we're going to try to mitigate that as much as we can. The numbers that you have in board book, the numbers that are represented, take into account the requirements that the city of Dallas have presented and are requiring. Now, again, there may be some wild card issues. We don't anticipate any at this juncture from what we know, so this should be inclusive of any of additional requirements that they may bring about. And with that, I would like to address any questions that you may have.
So in some of your screens, you had children grade in, it's not for children, right?
Correct. This is, again, the Teaching and Learning Center, for the staff and not for the children or students.
And I guess I need to ask Dr. Smith this. Because we know how you have to kind of jump through hoops with the city of Dallas, wouldn't it be just as well to go ahead and do phase 2? Or is it the money that we want to
Yeah,
make phase 1 and phase 2?
that is an option for us to consider. Right now, I'm a little more comfortable just based on all the research we've done with the approach that you were presented with tonight. But we can certainly consider other options, especially with what we know we're gonna be dealing with the city of Dallas. So, I can engage in those conversations with the team and then share with you the insights on that with the board, the insights on that, and then if that looks like that may be a better approach for us, then we certainly move in that direction.
And another thing too, and only because of hindsight on this building, I think the parking definitely should be in phase 1 if we go that way, because parking here didn't work out.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions for Mr. Brackens or Mr. Powell? You have anything to add, Mr. Powell? Oh, you just want to stand up for us? Well, okay. Good deal. Good deal, good deal. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion in regards to design development for the Teaching and Learning Center? Mrs. McNeely moved, and? Who's second? And Ms. Vera Cruz second. The motion. Are there any questions, comments, or further discussion? Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. We will now move to the action item E, construction manager at risk for various projects in our district. Ms. Andre Fields.
Again, good evening, and I'm really excited about having an opportunity to share with you about the construction manager at risk process that we have gone through, and to bring to you the recommendation of the administration. As you know, required by law, and you see the government code there in your board packet, that it required us to release a request for proposals for construction manager at risk. You gave us approval to do that a couple of months ago. And so as per our schedule for the Duncanville PD department, which will be the renovation of the old Main Street building, the Teaching and Learning Center that you just heard a lot about with the design development, which was a former action, and then the DHS parking lot. We bundled those three projects so that we could really get some interest in it based on the amount of funds that would go toward those projects. And so as per our process through our purchasing department, first of all, we advertised for 2 consecutive weeks as required by our process, and that was advertised in the Daily Commercial Record. For those of you who are familiar with that publication, a lot of construction companies get that basically every day about different projects. We had an announcement that was placed there this summer in August, the 22nd and 29th, and told them that we were requesting proposals for construction manager at risk. Those were due on October the 8th. We received 3 proposals from 3 different construction companies, and on the 8th and the 9th, the administrative team got together, reviewed those, and then scored those, and then you have the tabulations in front of you. A little bit more I want to share with you, because I'm sure maybe you may be wondering some things, because you see the 3 companies that you have in front of you that submitted the proposals. First of all, want to share a little bit about our past partnership with one of our former vendors, North Star Construction. You may be wondering, because their name's not listed there. Of course, North Star has been an awesome partner with Duncanville Independent School District with several building renovations, one being this one, the Idea Hub. And then, of course, they were our construction manager at risk for our 2014 bond program. And so I wanted to share with you why you don't see their names there. First of all, one of the things that we've heard from, I think he's their vice president, he did reach out to Dr. Smith and myself, that they made several significant staff changes with their business, and several of the individuals who would probably be closer located to us are no longer working for the company. And so Mr. Skates reached out and did share that, you know, they appreciated the partnership with us and all the work that they've done, the relationships they've built. They did not feel that they could really serve us the way they've served us in the past, to really have people here in our district to work with us. And so he did tell me that he knew we were probably going to have an RFP on the street and that they probably would not be it. So we were not surprised when we didn't get a proposal from North Star. And so nothing was wrong, everything was wonderful. They finished their work with us, and they're still very accommodating to us if we have anything that we need, so we can always call them. But I wanted to say that to you because I'm sure those of you who've been on the board for several years, you're familiar with that name, and that name was not present. So I wanted to explain that to you. The other information I want to share, of course, you see our recommendation to you for Sadelco Construction Company, the recipient we are hoping you will approve for our construction manager at risk. And I want to share a little bit about them. Of course, they've been in business for over 30 years. They have experience with many educational facilities and many school districts in which they've worked. We have checked references on those Sadelco, and they currently are working, I know, in the Dallas Independent School District and in Fort Worth Independent School District, and in for Arlington ISD, Garland ISD. They did their natatorium there recently, Northwest, and they've also done some work for some other municipalities like the city of Grapevine, and they do have some experience working with building some correctional facility types. And of course, we're building a police department, so that also helped us when we were checking their references. The other things that we saw by looking at the proposals, there were 5 of us who were on the team, 4 of which were school district personnel. So we heavily weighted. We had one other partner, but the others were school district personnel. Really looking at their work and their experience. If you looked at the proposals, you would see that Sadelco has many, many school projects they've done, many renovation projects. We checked their references most recently, and they're local. And everyone said the same thing about them, that they will have people in our district, including the executive team, to be responsive to us. And so we look forward to working with them. You may see in your big tab that they did present to us a 5% construction cost. And of course, we don't exactly know how much that will be based on them, of course, but getting their subcontractors and all of that to really know how much these projects are going to cost. We did not publicize how much money we had set aside for the projects. We wanted to see what we would receive, and of course, the 5% is probably pretty fair in the market. The second group had 4.5%, and the other was very low. The third company, if you see the ratings, not very experienced, very small company. We're not really sure if they could serve us, Mr. Dalco has a great deal of experience. Trying to see if there's anything else. One of the other things that we looked at when we were rating was if they, this was part of the RFP, if they really supported historically underutilized businesses, and they had to declare that along with sharing some of the information that they work with the community. SDALCO does have a mentoring program for underrepresented groups like females and minorities that are part of, want to get into the construction business, and so that was a plus for them. The other thing that leveled the playing field is that we had not worked with any of those companies. So if North Star had bid, then they probably would have gotten a few more points because we have a past relationship. All the folks who really have worked on it from the Duncanville perspective did not have that. And so I'm trying to make sure I give you as much information. So, but we are making a recommendation to approve SDALCO Construction as our construction manager at risk. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Sure, Ms. Colton?
Y'all have done an excellent job with this, and I really like the matrix that you all developed, and you've been very thorough.
Thank you.
And so, I would like to thank you all for that.
Thank you, Ms. Council. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Jackie? Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Fields.
It was definitely a team effort. Thank you very much.
Do I have a motion in regards to construction manager at risk for various projects in our district? Mrs. Colton moved, and Mrs. McNeely seconded the motion to approve the award for RFP 19-20.001 for construction manager at risk for the DISD Police Department Teaching and Learning Center and DHS Football Stadium parking lot as indicated on the tabulation to SDALCO Construction. Any more comments, questions before we vote? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Now we move to, our TASB Policy Review Services. Presenter Joe Copeland.
Here he comes. Good evening, Madam President.
Bring your stack of papers.
Board of Trustees and Dr. Smith, good evening. We are in the final stages of our updates to our local policies. With the board's approval tonight of these local policies and your authorization of the TASB Policy Services to begin working on the Duncanville ISD new policy manual, we know that there are many policies we're updating, so it will take TASB several months to make all the adjustments. We anticipate that the district's new policy manual will be complete on or around April next year, 2020. I would also like to note that we are planning on bringing EIC Local to the board for approval next month. Our curriculum and instruction department is already working on the course selection guide for that, which will be ready in the fall of 2020. Adopting this EIC Local earlier than planned will allow us to incorporate the changes to EIC Local into the fall 2020 course catalog for those students that will be starting 9th grade next year. This selection guide will also allow the staff to begin conducting meetings and providing student advising for all of those kiddos that are in grades 6 through 12 around February, sometime the middle of February, the end of February, for all of those courses for the next school year. I will thank you for just considering my brief interjection here, and it will be my pleasure to answer any questions that you may have regarding our wonderful TASB updates.
Any questions for Mr. Copeland? Do I have a motion in regards to the TASB Policy Review Services?
make a motion that the board authorize TASB Policy Service to add, revise, or delete local policies according to the summary document resulting from the policy review session conducted with the district on August 22nd, 2019, and approval of updates to EIC local with implementation effective fall semester 2019.
Thank you, Ms. Savage Martin. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Phillips. It has now been moved and seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. None opposed. Motion passes 6-0. We will now move to the information discussion agenda. The first item is the transportation report. Ms. Fields gets to speak once more.
Just very briefly, it's my pleasure to have one of my awesome staff members, Mr. Brad Hambrick, the Director of Transportation, to come with the report.
Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to stand before you tonight representing the 96 employees of the Transportation Department. We do have some vacancies, so 96 is when we're fully staffed, but I want to go over some of just a couple of the highlights there of the staff. We do have 2 drivers that are dedicated to Mountain View College for the Collegiate Academy, and I thank Ms. Brown and Dr. Smith for allowing me to add those 2 positions for them. They're at their disposal from 7:20 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, whatever they need. They're shuttling them back and forth, taking care of their needs. If they go on a field trip for a college visit, those are the 2 drivers that take them. So they are dedicated to the college. We have 22 monitors. Monitors are basically bus aides for the special needs buses. They're there to basically assist the kids, take care of the kids so that the driver can focus on driving and not really have to worry about what's going on in back. In addition to what's listed there, we also have 3 high school teachers that drive high school routes for us in the mornings and the afternoons, which is again, a big help with the driver shortage that we have. We also have 30 staff members and coaches that are CDL licensed that help with field trips and those kind of things. And then of those 30, 8 of those have actually completed the 15-hour course to drive the activity buses that you see posted there. So we're well on our way to getting everybody up to speed on that so that we can utilize those buses to their fullest capacity.
Okay, we can go home.
Okay, we can go home now? Oh, okay, there it is. The first slide up is our mileage update. It's a mileage comparison from school year 2015-16 up through last school year. You'll notice that there is a significant increase in the mileage for regular ed or gen ed routes. That's basically due to a change in in the mileage that the TEA allows us to claim on our route services report. They've done away, anyway, they've changed the rules and we're able to claim all of our regular route miles now rather than having to be selective so that we stay within a certain criteria. Special needs mileage is up. There's an increase in ridership as you'll see on the next slide also, so that's where that comes in. Career and technology mileage is down a little bit. It's got the inverse effect as the ridership has gone down a little bit on that side. So we're taking fewer kids, fewer places for CTE, at least we did last year. Athletic field trips, I think we all know why we're higher there. District realignment, you have successful football teams, sports, baseball, basketball. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the championship caliber teams that we have in this district. So the more we win, the more we travel, and that's a good number to see up. So I really like that. And then campus field trips are down slightly this year. Basically, that's just due to a decrease in the number of trips that we're taking. Let's see if I can get this thing. Daily riders. As I mentioned, well, I'll get to that. Gen Ed driver or ridership is down slightly this year. I'm not really sure what to attribute that to, other than it's just the luck of the draw on the days that we count. We typically count 4 days for each school, for each camp, or each grade level. And the days we picked this year, they're scheduled so far in advance, it's hard to tell. But we always wait until after football and marching band and that is over to try and get more of those kids on the buses before we actually start counting, get more of those kids on the buses, what to attribute that to. But as I mentioned, the special needs ridership is up, and then CTE is down slightly. Accidents, for those of you that weren't on the board last year, that increase in number last year can look really ominous. But as I explained last year to the board, there was a change in definition of what we consider to be an accident. We did away with the dollar value. So basically, if you knock a $5 lens off the bus, you've had an accident. So there is no dollar value. And we also went from an at-fault scenario to a preventable, non-preventable scenario, because you can have an accident and not be at fault. But as a professional driver, there are things that you can do or maybe should have done to prevent that accident. So we've changed our definition a little bit. We're using the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's definition of a preventable accident, which is pretty strict. There are very few instances where a professional driver should not have been able or could not have done something to prevent an accident. So that's why those numbers are up. We did come down a little bit from 17-18, nowhere near where we want to be. But that is something that we continue to work on as we go through our training, and we're continually revamping our training program to address those issues. So it is important to mention that there were no student injuries in any of those accidents. Training and monitoring. I'm going to touch on training first. We have two professionally certified trainers through the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Services. We train Mr. Gant, Paul Gant is our newly titled Safety and Training Coordinator. We have that position added for us this year, so that's all he has to focus on. In previous years, he's kind of tried to juggle two positions, but that is his sole focus going into this school year. Miss Latedra Bailey is a trainer also. Vicki Bryant is our special needs trainer. She deals with wheelchair securing the special needs kids and taking care of them. And then Mr. Johnny Campbell is our student management supervisor. So he handles all the bus conduct reports and deals directly with the campuses. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about him here in just a minute. But the list that you see over there on the right, that is a very, very short list of what we actually train on. If I were to list everything that we train on, it would have taken up a whole slide, and I'm not very good at reading from slides, so I'm sure. But that's just a little short list. In addition to that, we do railroad crossing training, nighttime driving, inclement weather driving, those kind of things. There's just a few more that we touch on. The picture on the bottom right is actually we do a school bus rodeo every year, and they have a skills course that the drivers have to navigate through. We've actually started implementing that here. We did that for the first time at our in-service this year. It's 8 obstacles that we do. It's parallel parking, backup alley. We do basic things like a right turn. Anyway, there's all criteria that you have to meet. And basically, it's just to refine or to reinforce the reference point driving that we use to refine those finer points of navigating a 42-foot long, 10-foot wide bus through the neighborhood. So that pretty much covers the training side of it. On the monitoring side, this is the coolest tool that I get to use every day. It gives me more information in the most amount of information in the least amount of time, and that is, you may have heard Ms. Edwards speak of it in her job description when she were describing her task as well, but this is our EduLog EduTracker GPS system. It's just a screenshot. Basically, I can take my mouse and I can hover over any one of those stars on there. It'll tell me the time of day that it is, the speed. If you hover over a stop sign, it tells you the time that they got to the stop, the duration of the stop, how long they were there, and when they left. Some other things that it helps me do, I get to see everybody all the time. I can click on any bus and it'll pull up their stuff. It tells me events. Are we stopping at railroad tracks? Part of our training is we pull the railroad tracks, we set the parking brake. It tells me when that event happens. In addition to telling me if it happens, it also tells me if it doesn't. So if I'm not seeing enough buses pop their brake or set their brake at the railroad tracks, that tells me where I need to go to address some of those issues. In addition to the live view, which is what you're looking at there, it also gives me a year's worth of history that I could go back and do research work on. Something happened yesterday, 2 weeks ago, anywhere up to a year back. So it's the coolest thing that I have on my computer. I mentioned Mr. Campbell a while ago in student management. I don't know. He's got to get up early too, so I didn't know if he was going to make it. He said he would try, but Johnny Campbell, about 7 years ago, I guess, we took student management and tried to bring the bus conducts back into the transportation department. And the idea behind that was actually twofold. One is it's going to free up time for the campus staff, APs, principals. It's going to free up their time so that they can deal with what's going on the campus. The other side of that is it brought consistency to the bus conduct or bus behavior issues that we were having. Because as y'all know, if you get 20 different people looking at a policy or procedure, you're going to get 20 different opinions on where they stand. So doing that and with the work and dedication and the diligence that Mr. Campbell's given to this task over the last 6 years, we've seen a significant increase, especially in the middle school and high school age range. To have 10 bus conduct reports from 4 grade levels at the high school, to me, is really, really amazing. Of course, at the elementary level, they're still young. They're still trying to figure things out. So we're still dealing. We were kind of up and down there, but still, I think as they get older, they know that consistency that Mr. Campbell brings to the table. They know they're not going to get away with it, so that kind of curbs that behavior in a positive way. 2 things that we did this year that we really pushed this year are ladies on the bus first, gentlemen on second at the bus stops, and vice versa when they get to the campus or back to their stops in the afternoons. We ask that the young men let the ladies off first, and then they follow in suit. We've had instances, or driver reported an instance where the young lady had left something at home and she ran back to the house to get it. She's running back to the bus, and they're waiting for her to get on the bus because that's what they've been asked to do. So that's very encouraging. Another thing that we're doing is we're separating the boys and girls. We don't do it on all the buses because it doesn't work on everything, on all situations. But for the most part, when we separate the boys from the girls, we set the girls on one side, the boys on the other. You see an improvement in behavior also. You also see a decrease in bullying and harassment issues and those kind of things. So those are 2 very positive things that have come out of what Mr. Campbell has done. And I'm going to give total credit to him. He is the one that has done this. So if you see Mr. Campbell, if you know Mr. Campbell, this is his doing, and I wanted to shine a little light on him tonight as well. So, bus maintenance programs, very basic. Real quick, basically we have 6 levels. The APM inspection is the daily vehicle inspection by the drivers, which is part of their pre-trip and post-trip. The F inspection is our annual state inspection. The rest of it is just the routine maintenance that we do in between, and there's 4 levels. They're based on 6,000-mile intervals. By the time we get to an EPM, that includes a B, C, and D also, so that's why that number is significantly higher. We'll spend 18 to 20 hours going through a bus. Of course, we can't do it all at one time, but over the time of doing that PM, we'll spend 18 to 20 hours of looking everything over on that bus. Couple of new shop members. We have a new fleet manager this year. Mr. Steve Williams comes to us from Dallas ISD just a couple of months ago. And Justin Esquivel comes to us from John Deere. He's a very hardworking young man. We've got a really good group of guys in the shop, and I'm very proud of them. So. Fleet details, this is basically the same as it was last year. We added the 4 activity buses, of course, to that list. So we're up to 51 regular ed routes, 26 special needs. 63 have cameras. Now, if you do the math real quick in your head, that doesn't add up to what the total number of buses we have, and I want to explain that real quick. Of course, some of them are non-usable buses. The ones that don't have cameras or spares, and they're typically the older buses that we use for athletics, in-town small groups, golf, basketball, middle school basketball, those kind of things, where you don't typically have a lot of discipline issues and those kind of things. So that would be the buses that don't have video systems on them. And then just a quick rundown of the rest of the fleet. We have 59 additional white fleet or support vehicles in our fleet as well. All total, Transportation Department maintains 131 vehicles for the district. So. Oh, where'd it go? There it goes. Cost and expenses. This fuel, as y'all may guess, is our second biggest expense behind salary. So we are in a contract currently with TASB, Texas Association of School Boards, until the 31st of July for 2020. The fuel prices there, you see there for diesel and gasoline, are actually 20 cents cheaper than the previous year's contract. So with a total transportation fuel budget of $285,000. Then we get into some total cost, total consumption there for the district. Total district consumption was just under $380,000 for fuel last year. So that concludes my report. Be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. Great report. Lots of information that we like.
All right,
Thank you so much. I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the salary increase, was it beneficial in hiring new bus drivers?
It has been, but that's an industry-wide problem. I mean, even though there are other districts around us that pay more, they have struggled with recruiting drivers as well. We're not having any trouble keeping the ones that we have. And to me, that's the most important thing, because we do have a really good group of drivers. But yeah, I mean, it helps. I know it helped with their morale. I mean, we had some concerns at the beginning of the year, but when that salary schedule and that change came through, it's quieted everybody down and everything's going fine. So.
Thank you. Now, did Dr. Smith bring you donuts at the start of school?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
He did.
Good.
He did. He brought us donuts and orange juice, if I'm not mistaken.
All good.
So.
We're all good. Okay. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We do not have any communications from the citizens, do we? No? Okay. Being that there's no further items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a safe evening.